Americans that are injured off base, that's a whole different ball of wax. They don't have Good Samaritan laws in Italy, so rendering first aid outside of the safety net of the military base is not done.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining us for another episode of 911 Delta, Tethered for Life. This podcast may not be suitable to all listeners due to language and subject matters. Please listen with care. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of 911 Delta, Tethered for Life. This week we've got Lorri back with us, and we also have Ruthi from Naples, Italy joining us. Ruthi is an American, but she works for the U.S. Navy in Italy now. So for any of you dispatchers that think about taking the plunge and going overseas, grab those headsets. Thank you, Ruth, for joining us all the way from Italy.
Naples, Italy. Yep, it's a beautiful city.
So how long have you been in Naples?
Well, I've been in Naples for 7 months this time. I was actually here from 1987 to 1990. I was stationed here when I was in the Navy.
Okay.
And then, so I was in Naples at the beginning of my career and now at the end of my career, kind of like bookends. So, and this time I'm here anywhere from 3 to 9 years.
Gotcha.
All right. So are you now active duty again, or are you a?
No, I'm a GS8.
Okay.
So I'm a government worker this time. Yeah. It's kind of weird though, because I work with the military and for the military, but I'm not military.
What did you do in the Navy the first time?
I was actually a radar operator. We hunted submarines that came through the Med. And so I did that for 8 years.
Were you on a chopper or
got a European
were you on a ship?
I was actually on a ship one time. I was only on. I was stationed in Rota, Spain for 2 years. Stationed in Lakehurst, New Jersey, where the Hindenburg blew up. I was stationed there for 3 years, and then Naples for 3 years. But I got a European discharge, and then my first husband was British, so we moved to Liverpool, England. Lived there for 4 years. Got divorced and moved back to Jacksonville. Was in Jacksonville for 24 years, working for the sheriff's office, and then this job came up, and lo and behold, they hired a 60-year-old woman to come to Italy. So that's what I did.
Yeah,
nice.
Experience.
I still can't believe they hired me.
Well, they wanted the experience. So you were you were at the sheriff's office for 24 years. Were you in communications?
Yes, I was a lieutenant when I retired. So I was over the day shift portion of it. We had 2 lieutenants, one for mids, one for days, and I was over day shift for probably the last 5 years that I was there.
So how does dispatching work over there?
It's interesting because we dispatch for on base. So we have a USNH, which is a naval hospital, and they have an ambulance service. So Americans that and local nationals that need assistance on base, we send our military ambulance and fire department out to. Now, the Americans that are injured off base, that's a whole different ball of wax. They don't have Good Samaritan laws in Italy, so rendering first aid outside of the safety net of the military base is not done. So a lot of times I work. It's me and another local national that works in the comm center. So when we have calls that are off base, my local national will interpret and call the 118 or the 112 number, the Italian ambulance or fire or security. And then she will interpret what the American will put the American on the phone. She'll speak to the American and then interpret and call over to the ambulance and relay the information that way. Not very efficient, and Italian ambulances are notoriously slow. But something that's interesting is the Italian ambulances have doctors on all of their ambulances.
Wow.
Because it takes so long for them to get to the hospital, and through traffic and everything, it's more efficient for them to actually place a doctor in the ambulance when they respond to the scene.
That would be
I thought that
helpful on
was-
phone calls.
Hmm?
So, do you speak Italian?
No, I do not. I speak, well, I'm trying, but
Right,
I
you're
do not
learning.
speak Italian.
Right.
So that's why I work with a local national, and any of the interpreting that has to go on, they do. Like if we have calls on base, then I handle it and I dispatch them, and my coworker will help. So it's 2 of us in the comm center. Not a very high call volume. Definitely not at all compared to JSO. JSO, we handled over 1,500,000 calls for service annually. And over here, I'd be surprised we handled 1,000.
Okay.
Wow. So do they, especially the fire department, like, do they run any mutual aid out into
town? No.
the community? Yeah.
No, because Italian laws, they don't have like letters of understanding or MOUs or anything like that would be necessary to do mutual aid. So no, I say no. Like if we have a hiker that's on Mount Vesuvius that is lost, I wouldn't say that well, no, because we couldn't even send our helicopter, and we don't have a helicopter that's over here. But we wouldn't send the ambulance off base to assist. The ambulance would stay on base. Saying that, if we have an incident that happens on base and it's outside of the expertise of the naval hospital, and we have to send the patient out in town, we will send our ambulance out to the hospital, or call the Italian ambulance to come in and then transport out to the hospital. So as far as mutual aid goes, it's more between us and the local hospitale, I think they say it. Also, it's weird. Hospital begins with an O over here, ospedale. So they would go to the local hospital or the local cardiac hospital. Or the Italian hospitals tend to be more specific, if you will, specified. And so we would send them to the nearest hospital for whatever the condition is. And that's probably, we send them off maybe once a week, twice a week.
Well, that's very different.
Yeah, it is. It's a little different. And we use Pro QA. Have you ever heard of Pro QA?
Oh, yes. Hate it.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't stand Pro
We
QA.
had EFD and EMD. They were talking about getting EPD, but they hadn't gotten it when I retired.
Yeah,
If I had walked in there one day and they said, "Hey, we have EPD," I probably would have said, "I'm retired right now. Bye."
Yeah, no,
I hate Pro QA.
I cannot stand it. And having to use the mouse to go from page to page when you've got a choking baby, no, I can't. I don't like it at all.
My problem with it, I understand if you're brand new and you have no background,
Right.
it's a nice tool. But for those of us that have been there more than a minute,
Exactly.
when, for example, a structure fire, Anna and I are both love fire.
Right.
Structure fire, I'm going to say, what's on fire? Is everybody out? Get out of the house. And it's already dropped and gone.
Right.
But of course, with Pro QA, I've got to ask him 17 silly questions before I can send it.
Exactly.
And
then you have to hunt on the screen to find out where the next question, to click for the next question. And like my first call for Pro QA was a choking 9-month-old. I've done this for 24 years. Muscle memory kicks in. Clear the airway.
Yep.
Child breathing. Let's see if the child's crying, then the child's breathing. And so I went back by my memory, and ProQA, it's just too many steps to go
It's
through to
cumbersome.
render.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So no, I'm not a big fan of it.
Do you use it
And I've read
there?
all of them. Huh?
Do you use it there
Yeah.
in Italy?
And they swear by it. Well, we do, but the Italians don't. But the Americans do.
Well, our
Yeah.
fire admin loves it because they think that it makes the calls drop faster for the guys in the field. But
Right.
I've showed a couple of them. I've said, you're only seeing how long it takes after it hits our screen for us to dispatch to you. Yeah, okay, 15 seconds. That's because we've been
Right.
yelling at them for the last 3 minutes. Send it, send it, send it. And they're
Mhm.
busy asking
Mhm.
questions like, well, how many stories do you have? And, what color is
Right.
the smoke? And no.
Right. And it just, no, it's too much. And especially for things like, for chest compressions, and it's wanting you to click on so you can count the amount of chest compressions. Who cares? It's chest
Right.
compressions.
Right.
I mean,
I never did get that right. Maybe once.
No, it's impossible. When the first agency that I worked at, we used it, and
Mhm.
so I actually got pretty proficient at it, and I could
Mhm.
actually get the timer going. And then when I switched to where Lorri and I worked together in Spotsy, they didn't use it then.
Right.
And then at the end they got it back, and it's like, oh my God, this is so I hate this now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah. I can honestly say I'm right there with you.
I don't know how it became so popular in dispatches, but there are a ton of places, and APCO has their own version of it
Right.
now too.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And we're at when I worked for the regional dispatch center in Jacksonville. I worked there for 2 years after I retired from JSO, and the regional dispatcher used the APCO version, but
Okay.
that was much more user friendly.
That's what I hear.
You had your two questions, and it followed. It made more sense. You
Okay.
ask your questions, and it was in order. You didn't have to click a mouse and hunt, and no, it was much more user friendly.
Yeah, ProQA makes us sound dumb. You ask to get
Exactly.
in trouble.
Right. Well, I got
Yeah.
into a big conversation with a girl that I worked with at the first agency because, okay, the only situation that you are conscious and not breathing, okay, well, I guess there could be two technically. You're choking or you're seizing. And I'm
Right.
seizing. I mean, are you really conscious when you're seizing? I don't. That's yeah.
You're not aware.
No.
Right. So that's the stupidest.
Right.
Yeah. If you're conscious, I would almost always just not ask that question. I don't even care. You can ding away on your QA, but if you're telling me that they're awake,
Yep.
I'm not asking, are they breathing?
Yep.
That's dumb.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the same thing with the choking baby. I could hear the baby crying in the background. Baby's crying.
Obviously,
baby's
it's breathing. Right.
Yeah.
Now you're 20. You're like 30 years into this public safety thing.
Oh my goodness. 24, 25, 26. Yeah, going on 27. Wow.
Okay.
That's a long time.
So what made you get into it after the Navy?
Well, let's see. It's a kind of an interesting story there too. My marriage in England crashed and burned. So we moved back to Jacksonville. Well, we moved to Jacksonville, Florida. My family's originally from Massachusetts, but I had friends that I was stationed with in Rhoda that came to Jacksonville, and a group of us, like 5 of us, just ended up in Jacksonville. So I was working for a collections agency that it was as a secretary, and this job came up as a call taker. Started out as a call taker with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and it looked so interesting to me, and I was so burned out doing, being a collections secretary. I wanted to do something where I felt good about what I was doing instead of hounding people for money. And I was just burnt out. So I took a little bit of a pay cut and went over to the sheriff's office, and it just took off from there. I started out as a call taker for 5 years, then moved over to dispatch, because when I first joined, we weren't cross-trained. it was you either did call taking or dispatch. So 5 years call taking, another couple years dispatch, then decided to wanted to go on the supervisor route. Took the sergeant's test 5 times, finally passed it, and then 3 years later took the lieutenant's test, passed it on the first try, and was a lieutenant for the last 10 years that I was there.
So is
And
everybody
absolutely loved it.
is everybody that's in Jacksonville dispatch, are they all law enforcement? Yeah, we were all
We're not
civilian.
sworn. Yeah, they're all civilian. They're not sworn. We are the primary PSAP, so we take all the calls and then we transfer to fire.
And you said how many calls did you do a year?
1,500,000. And that's calls that get sent to the street. That's not the butt dials,
Right,
the
that's not
hang-ups, the
adding, right. And yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And we had a budget of $8 million
We could only
for
dream.
137 dispatchers, including overtime. So yeah, it was fun.
How many people did you have on a shift?
11 dispatchers, 11 call takers, fully staffed with sergeants, 25. But that was it. We were never fully staffed. You know that. It's a comm center.
Yeah. Right.
Never fully staffed.
Can you imagine 22 people?
I know. Well, Orlando took the same amount of calls that we did and had 33 call takers, just call takers. I had 11. They had 33 for the same volume.
So do you live out in the community or do you live on base? Okay.
Another funny coincidence, I live in Licola, and that is the place that I lived in 1987 when I was here. I found a house that was in the same part of Naples that I lived. I've got a 3-bedroom, 3-bath villa with a pool that the Navy pays my rent.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a sweet deal. I'm loving it.
Is there a memorable experience, a call, something like that you feel like really influenced your career or your way of thinking, changed your life, anything like that?
Well, I would say that, well, we all have, the awful calls that stay with us. What actually made me retire, though, was not the calls, was not the atmosphere. It was the supervisors above me. Okay, so, all right, I'm just going to tell you straight up the story. Not my brightest employee. And we had a case of, there was a 5-year-old who was being molested and it was being videotaped on Facebook. And she asked me how to send the call. And I told her it was lewd act on the child. And she said, but they're filming it on Facebook. There's nobody there. And so I had to explain to her what, the whole process. And I may have used the word stupid once or twice, but for an awful call like that, having to explain it to the newer generation, it's almost like they don't care. They don't care that this child is being, and so that culture kind of is what got me out of managing. And going back to what I love, which is dispatching here in Naples, is almost like a breath of fresh air. Because I did the managing for 10 years and had to deal with the employees and their issues and sick leave and staffing. And, and so I got away from the actual love of dispatching and then given this opportunity to go back to being a dispatcher. And it's like the best thing in the world because that's what I love to do. I love to dispatch. I like, taking control of the situation, getting rigs rolling and rendering first, life-saving instruction. And that's what I like to do. And it's unique that I was able to come back to that. I don't think a lot of people can come back to that after they've gone the management route. if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's probably the most influential thing that in my career was being able to go back to what I love.
Cool.
I think everybody has something, if they're old enough, has something that they'd like to go back to doing. You know,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But
Yeah. And this
yeah,
one, the opportunity to come back to Europe and to live in Europe doing the job I love,
yeah, you
it
poor
doesn't get any
thing.
better than that.
Yeah, I know. I feel so bad for you.
I do too. Third world country and all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
It
Well,
is
then
pretty
there's
cool.
nothing to do, you know.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what's the best part of being in Italy other than you're in Italy? What is it for you?
The best part, well, and it's weird. Have you ever worked in a comm center where you have a group of people that everybody just gets along?
Yes. Doesn't happen often, but it's great when it
No,
does.
it does not happen often. It happened when I was in the Navy in Rota. There was one time, but that's the only time in my entire career where I've been part of a group where everybody just gets along. And I don't know if it's because everybody's happy that they're here in Italy, or that you work with local nationals who have a job on base, so they get paid more than the Italians, so they're happy. Um, or if it's the low call volume and we don't have the baby mama drama because we're dispatching for military, and military basically know how to behave. So I guess it's a combination of things, but yeah, I would say the place that I work right now is, wow, it's been a long time since I've had a group of people that get along like this.
That's great.
And we don't have sick leave issues. And I mean, it's, it's such a blessing. I don't know how to
Well,
explain it other than that.
if you like who you're working with, you like what you're doing, you're not going to work. You're going to chill with your friends.
Perfect. And that's
And
exactly what it is.
do you work 8 hours, 12 hours?
We do 12-hour shifts. And because we work with Italian nationals, we have to follow Italian law. And Italian law says that an Italian national has to work either day shift or midnight shift, but only for 1 month intervals. So we switch every month. We go from a month of days, a month of mids, and then, that's how we rotate. And I love it. I love that you're only on day shift for a month, so you only have to deal with day shift people for a month. And then you're only on mids for a month. So, I mean, and when you work mids, those 2 days off that you have, you're sleeping for the first day. And then the second day, you're, getting caught up on everything. So I love the schedule here, the 1 month rotation. And the Italian nationals work the same schedule that we do.
So do you work
Yep.
like the 2 days on, 2 days off, 3-day weekend thing? Yeah.
Yep. Or you have every other weekend off.
Sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah. I think there's a name for that schedule.
I think so too, but
Yeah,
I can't
don't
ever
know.
remember
Yeah.
what it
Dispatcher schedule.
yeah.
Yeah. It's the one that a lot of, I mean, the regional dispatch center in Jacksonville is on the exact same schedule. I didn't even have to change color squads when I came over here, so I didn't have to change anything in my calendar.
That's good.
All my days
Nice.
off just stayed the same.
Ruth, what do you think people, or how do you think you maintained your attitude over the years doing this? Like, how did you manage the stress and be a resilient person instead of, going crazy?
Right. I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. It's almost like Stockholm syndrome.
Oh, okay. All right.
You don't realize when you're in the situation how bad the situation is. I mean, we dealt with officer shootings. I remember a 2-year-old that was running after mom when mom was leaving. Mom didn't see him and, ran over him. And then the officer that responded had a baby that was the same age and just was absolutely inconsolable on the radio. And, we had the Maddie Clifton case. We had the Summers case where, the mother of the year that she is allowed a pedophile to take her daughter into the dressing room at Walmart because he gave her a gift card. And then the child ended up getting kidnapped. And the officer that found the child was a canine officer, and Summer was wearing the same T-shirt that his daughter had. So having to talk him down at the same time. So, but you deal with that for 24 years, and you don't realize when you're in the midst of it that you're having to deal with all these horrendous calls.
Because you have to put it in a box and shove it back and go to the next call.
You put it on the back burner and you deal with what you have to deal with. I have an officer that's in distress. I have to deal with that first. I have and you kind of, I don't want to say put your mental health on the back burner, but we had debriefings intermittently, but not a whole lot. There wasn't a whole lot of assistance for handling all these major calls. And then once I retired and went over to the Navy side of it, looking back on it, I'm like, holy crap, we handled all this stuff, and there's really no resources to help process it. I would go over to my dispatchers and take them off the radio after they had a hard call, and I would sit down behind them and dispatch, and just to give them a breather, but that's not enough. That's not enough to help them, handle this, these horrendous calls like this. And it's day in and day out, and boom, boom, boom. And you get done with one, you go right to the other. There's no breathing space. There's no, So that's my little soapbox.
Yeah.
Oh, we all have that same soapbox, I believe.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah.
So did Jacksonville include you guys on all debriefs on calls, or just here and there?
Not in all of them, only when management makes a stink that we get included. And that was, I've made a stink. But probably in my career, I probably only went to 5 debriefings. And plus then we get subpoenaed to relive it in court, and then you have to, oh God, when they play when they play you on the radio and you have to listen to yourself. Ugh.
Do I
First
sound
of all,
like that?
No dispatcher likes to hear their own voice.
No.
I don't know what it is, but we don't like it. And then having to listen to it in court and get questioned about it. I wasn't a fan of that either.
No, that's one thing I never had to do, and I am so happy because
I got subpoenaed one time for an animal control call in one of our ritzy neighborhoods. You know which one I'm talking about, Anna. And the judge called the case, and he said, everybody involved in this case are subpoenaed, come up here. So we all went up to the bench, and he said, all right. And there was, 12 of us or something. And he went, why are you here? Who are you? Why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here? And he got to me, and I said, I answered the call, and I heard the dispute in the background on dispatch. He said, oh, okay. And he basically told the 2 people to behave, and we left. And I got paid for 6 hours to sit in court and do absolutely nothing on my day off. But,
Yeah. But it's funny because the people that subpoena us are usually the defendants, not the prosecutor. So you've got the defendant that this guy's probably guilty of sin, and then you have to use your day and
Right. Or they said something that they shouldn't have said on a recorded line, and you heard it, and you're like, why are you subpoenaing? It doesn't make any sense. Like, you're going to play this recording of you saying what you shouldn't have said. Yeah.
Like the crackheads that, want to call 911 because they got sold some bad crack.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we've had dealers call because they got ripped off.
Oh, yeah. There's somebody, or the
the
person they were selling to took their money.
Right. You're trying not to laugh on the phone. You got to get them off the phone because you're about to lose it. I'm like, okay, I'm so sorry you lost your money there, buddy. Probably wanted to, aren't you? You know, terrible.
And sometimes I think they realize, like some of them, the smarter ones, about like halfway through, they'll realize, like, oh, probably shouldn't be making this phone call.
Exactly.
Right.
Especially
How do I get out of this?
Right.
Yeah, when you repeat back to them what they said.
Right.
Okay, so you are calling 911 because your dealer didn't give you enough drugs.
And then they're like,
Never mind.
I'm going to send the police right over to you, okay?
Here comes the popo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never fails.
Or the ones where they threaten to kill somebody on the phone and then that person ends up dead. Go figure.
Yes.
When the people would do that, and I would say, you know, sir, you're on a recorded line. And of course, then they start screaming, I don't give a, and, you know, on and on and on. And then it ends up in court, and suddenly they're, well, I didn't mean it. I mean, people say that all the time. And
Yeah, but.
Hey, he said it on a recorded line.
You mentioned earlier that the military people know how to behave, but what is that the biggest difference between call taking for the general public and on a military base?
Absolutely. I mean, we have the suicide calls, and you know, these are kids that first time away from home.
Some of them are
and
young,
you know,
right?
Yeah, a lot of them are very young, but they know how to behave. They have a chain of command. They don't, you know, we don't have the baby mama drama or people being beat up by their girlfriend or boyfriend or you know, kids left in a hot car to bake for 8 hours. You know, we don't have those kind of calls. We've got the, you know, the drunk sailor calls and the, you know, and then the medical. And you know, and a lot of it's, I don't know what that, and that's probably the biggest difference is we don't have the drama. There's no drama, which is nice.
That is nice.
Our old agency could send you some if you wanted.
Right.
Send you a lot of it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that would be nice. That would be an almost relaxing job.
Exactly.
Because
And
you know you're
I
not
mean,
going to pick up the phone and hear that somebody's blocking the line at McDonald's because they didn't get extra ketchup on their burger, which I have taken that call.
Yeah.
So do you dispatch for the MPs too?
Yes.
How does that work?
Fire, EMD, and security. And again, these are MPs, so we know they're not sworn.
Right.
So they don't have the arrest, you know, ability or what the word is for it. So whenever it comes out to something that's serious, the carabinieri or the polizia will get called, and then they'll deal with it from there. But like assaults and discharging of firearms, we just don't have those.
Right.
Yeah. And it's very nice.
I'm trying to imagine that in my head, you know, after 20 years of what I've heard, and
Right.
that's hard to imagine.
It really is. And it took me a good year to get used to it over in Jacksonville, working on base there. Because even in the States, the same thing. When you work for a military installation, the military members just know how to behave.
Well, they don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. And well, there's more accountability. Because, you know, if someone goes schmo out in town, you know, he's not accountable to anybody. You have a military member, if they want to stay in the military, they have a chain of command, and you know, their chain of command will be notified, and they'll, you know, follow through and follow up, and there's more follow up. Yeah.
Right. Well, I know that I've had to call Quantico a couple of times for Marines that were not, shall we say, behaving properly, and I get a, you know, a first sergeant on there, or a gunny. Gunnies are the worst, it seems like. And say, you know, Private so-and-so did such and such. It's always followed by, he did what? I'm on my way. Where did you say you are again? You know, like, well, he's already in jail. I'm coming down there first. I want to talk to the deputy. I thought, well, somebody used to be in the Marines, you know. Yeah.
We had that in Jacksonville too. Every once in a while, they would get arrested we used to call it Nat's house, but over at the public jail, and we'd have military members come down and pick them up, and yeah, they were not happy. You could tell
No.
as they walked back to the car.
It sounds like it's kind of the same, but without the drama.
Without all
Right.
the fun.
Yeah.
Well, it can be fun, but sometimes it's just, not.
The sarcastic fun.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
The one that make you roll your eyes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So interesting.
Do you have any frequent callers? People that call, your frequent flyers? Do you get those?
We don't have frequent flyers, even because I would think that we would, because we have military spouses that, let's be honest, sometimes not the best choice for
Right.
we all
Yeah.
make mistakes. And I would think that they would be more frequent flyers, but even the spouses are not frequent flyers. I had to deal with one that we have a lot that we have mopeds over here, and oh my God, they just kind of go whizzing by. So we've had a lot of Americans that have taken out mopeds, and I would say that
That's
would
hard.
be a frequent call that we get.
Right.
But to be honest, a lot of the drivers of the mopeds just kind of get up and brush it off, and after they've been
Used to it.
by them,
Well, and what do you feel like? Because I felt when I lived in Europe, like they also behave differently than Americans.
Yes.
And I don't know about in Italy, but in Germany, like there were laws. For instance, if you left your vehicle unlocked and something was
Mhm.
stolen from it,
Mhm.
you couldn't really say it was stolen. Like they could
Right.
charge you
Right.
for leaving your vehicle
That makes perfect
unprepared.
sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
There is a law over here in Italy that if you are in a car accident with a moped or a motorcycle, that you are automatically at fault. Even if the motorcycle drives straight into you, you are the at fault vehicle
oh wow.
because it's involving a motorcycle or a moped. So the drivers are very, very careful about the mopeds, and the only ones that we get are the U.S. that take out the mopeds, because the Italians are like, they're going to be the at-fault vehicle, so they're going to pay extra close attention to that.
Right.
But even I was driving on the Tangenziale, and it was rush hour traffic, and we were just at, where you do like 5 miles an hour. And I came to a stop, and the car behind me just kind of tapped the back of my car. And I kind of looked at the back, and he kind of looked at the back and put his hands up and went, sorry. And then, yeah, whoopsie, my bad. And then we just kept on driving. So
We'd have had 75,000 911 calls.
yeah, exactly.
They've been fighting in the street. Right.
Right.
Mhm.
There's a body in the street. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Whatever. Yeah.
I didn't.
There's more.
Another
I
interesting
feel like
thing-
there's more common sense over there.
Yeah. And here in Naples, we get more crimes against property than we do crimes against people. There's hardly any crimes against people. You would
Yeah.
think that, and I don't know if it's because of the Camorra, they have their own special mafia here, or because, even up in Rome, there was no crimes against people. Like if someone breaks into your house and steals your stuff, they're not going to kill you. They're just going to steal your stuff. And we do have a couple of break-ins out in town where the homeowners are home at the time because they leave the windows open or whatever, and then they just came in, took the woman's purse and ran out.
Roll down.
Whereas in the States, because of castle laws and firearms and things like that,
Stand your ground.
yeah.
Do the MPs take anybody into custody at all? Like, is there a brig,
We do not have a brig. We have a precinct,
okay.
which is basically, just admin and everything else. There's no jail. There's no physical jail. There is no
Gotcha.
brig. Anything that is a serious nature, Carabinieri will come on base and arrest, and then bring the arrestee to an Italian jail. And an Italian jail is a whole different ball of wax. They don't even feed them. If you don't have family members that will bring you food, you will literally starve in jail.
I've heard that. That's true.
Wow.
That is true.
Wow.
That is true. They do not feed them. And
Wow.
it's, it's crazy.
When
Yep.
Sharon and I were over there, I was looking for police stations and firehouses to trade patches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Couldn't find either one to save my life.
Yeah.
Finally, we had this driver who took us over to the closest one to Notre Dame,
Mm-hmm.
and he got me in because everything was locked up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
here you can just walk into a firehouse.
Right.
There were no signs, no nothing, and they didn't have patches, but I gave the kid the patch because he was so excited when he saw it. But
Mm-hmm.
is Italy the same way, where you don't have anything that says Policia or fire department or anything like
Yeah.
that?
As far as like the Carabinieri, the Carabinieri is the kind of like the staties in Massachusetts. You have state police who handle, the well, no, and not really state, but the higher ups,
Okay.
is the Carabinieri, and then you have the Polizia Statale and the Polizia Financia and the Polizia. There's like 4 different like sheriff's office police, and as there are places that say Polizia on the outside, but it's going to be the low level Polizia. It's not going to be the Carabinieri. And the Carabinieri is who you want to really, if you are in trouble over here, they're the ones you want to deal with it because they're higher up on the food chain, if you
But
know what I mean.
like between state police and maybe FBI or something like
Yeah.
that?
Yep. Exactly. Closer to FBI, I think, than
Okay, that makes
anything
sense.
else. Yeah, but they
It
handle
was just kind of
the
frustrating.
major crime. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a little frustrating.
yeah.
But I did finally find some cops in London. They were sitting
Hmm.
in the middle of the road just watching traffic, and I just like, I'm going to walk in the traffic. So I did. Didn't phase them at all. I'm sure they
Yeah.
were thinking, dumb American, here comes a dumb American.
Yeah, they
But
call them bobbies over there.
yeah, I just hadn't, I hadn't thought about it. And then after talking to them, and then I'm thinking they have so much. I mean, we're always under a terror threat, but over
Hmm.
there, it's even higher, and there's
Yeah,
everything's so close together.
yeah,
But all they have to do is put somebody in a car and send them around the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and that'll scare them. They'll never come back. Jeez.
yeah. That's true. And we just had I think when they had a bunch of the GS7 was over here in Puglia.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys see that? Did you see Biden when he was standing with the group and he kind of wandered off and the Italian prime minister kind of had to get him back into the group? I was sitting at my friend's, I have an Italian friend that I work with, and I'm sitting with her family watching this on the TV, and it was like, wow, that,
It's
but
embarrassing.
and I don't know where we got off on that one, but going back to London, the English prime minister was actually holding Biden's hand so that he stayed with the group, and I thought that was kind of interesting too. And the Italians' response to that was, um, it was a little embarrassing. Yeah.
That was one thing
Yeah.
that surprised me in London was how aware of our politics they all were.
Yes.
It was, I was just stunned the first one that came up to me and started talking about it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm an American. Yeah, I vote."
Yeah. I think the Europeans are more aware than we are. Like if I had to pick the Italian prime minister out of a group of people, I don't think I would have been able to. Because
Hmm.
I didn't research, I didn't do my backgrounds, I didn't,
Right.
but,
Yeah, but I was just so surprised that they knew. Even a couple people in France said something, but
mhm.
it was just crazy.
Yeah, nuts.
So I guess one last question for you.
Okay.
What advice would you have for somebody looking to get into this field?
to get into this field, you have to want to help people. And I know that sounds rote, and I know that sounds, flowers and hearts and everything, but you have to have that desire to actually help. People that are missing that desire or who lack that desire tend not to be successful in the field. So if people that are wanting to join, 911 and become a 911 dispatcher, they have to have that heart to help people, or else they're not going to enjoy the job. And if you don't enjoy the job, maybe not the job for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
true.
one piece of that would be the one piece of advice, that they have a true desire to help people.
Yeah, I know I've had a trainee that was there for one day and left.
Yeah.
And then we had an officer involved shooting 5 or 6 years ago, and the person that took the call had a trainee with her, and that person never came back. Never called,
Yeah.
never came. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're going to have to deal with these awful things, and if they don't have that heart to help, then it's going to be harder than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as our society goes from, people call law enforcement more because they don't want to deal with other people's shit.
Mm-hmm.
So if you already have a bunch of people who don't want to deal with other people and their crap, then now where are we pulling dispatchers from?
And that's a good question too, because the ones that are coming in that I noticed, they don't give a shit. They don't care. Why do the job if you don't care about helping people? And when they're at, most of the time, we all have the BS calls that are repeat, frequent flyers and the ones we roll our eyes at. But a majority of our calls are people that are calling us when they're at the apex of a situation and they need help. And if they're not willing to help or not wanting to help or don't have the empathy necessary to help, why are they there? And if it's just for a paycheck, trust me, there's a better paycheck out there.
Less stressful one for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people coming in don't know how to talk to people on the phone either, because they text everything, and when they get they pick up the phone and they've got somebody screaming. You can see it. The whole room, you can see it in the whole room. They just freeze. And somebody's got to grab it because they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys have text to 911 before?
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah, we had it too. It was.
We don't have
we only got maybe 10 calls with it.
Yeah, I would say.
How many?
I've probably taken
Thankfully.
3. Yeah, but we don't have the video to 911. Thank heavens.
We didn't either, because we couldn't overcome the legal hurdles necessary to utilize it.
Our comm manager didn't want us to have to watch somebody murdered or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, how are you going to subpoena a video call where you actually witness a murder and not have it affect the defendant or the prosecutor? There was a lot of hoops to jump through.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they've released it now for some, like for the new iOS operating system, where they can actually request video or request photos. And I'm like, this girl is not
Yeah, no.
I would pretend like the button broke. I'm not doing that.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Absolutely. Too big a can of worms.
Exactly.
Yes. More like a case of worms.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But the people that bother me the most are the ones that will stand there and film something.
Mm-hmm. And do nothing.
Not do anything.
And do nothing. Right.
I watched one up where I grew up in Fairfax County, and cops getting the crap beat out of him. The
Yeah.
guy's almost got his gun out of his holster, and this guy's, videotaping it and
Yeah.
narrating. Put
Yeah.
it down. Go help.
Yes.
But no, we have
Yes.
to videotape everything.
And those are able-bodied people that are doing the taping. It's not like, some 60-year-old woman is over there. These are, 20, 30-year-old big guys that.
I'm a 65-year-old woman. I would be over there probably kicking the guy in the his lower
Exactly.
extremities,
Right
or at
there
least
with you.
grab it and twist.
Or
Something.
hit them with the phone. Instead of
There you
record
go.
with the phone, hit them with the phone.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Here with you.
Oh my gosh. Yikes. Well, thank you, Ruth. This has been really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for the opportunity. It has been a lot of fun.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Ciao. Arrivederci.
All right. Bye.